Thursday, June 9th. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. It is with complete awe that we watch the forecasters make their forecast for next week. These are the most accurate forecasters. They have a reputation for being top-notch in accuracy in all areas. And they have done something completely wild. There are two things that are being done completely wild. Number one, record heat is being forecasted for the St. Louis area next week. But number two, record-shattering heat is forecasted for the St. Louis area. Let's add on actually number three, which is the most wild of anything, and that's breaking the cloud. It breaks the general rule, which meteorologist Dave Murray has said. He worked for KTVI in St. Louis. He retired. But the rule, which makes an enormous amount of sense, is you never ever forecast extremes in a long-term forecast. But they have gone ahead and they have done it with afternoon highs forecasted for around the very end of June to be 98 degrees, about 10 degrees above normal, maybe even more than that for the St. Louis area. Again, that's 98 degrees. That's at the very end of June, 98 degrees. Thank you, crowd, for that. But wait till you hear what they're forecasting for next week. Now, I have not mentioned the names of these forecasters. Tuesday's high in St. Louis, 104. Overland's high, 103. Temperatures reaching 102 in St. Louis already Tuesday morning. And it is, until I am able to figure out what's going on, I'm not able to make that forecast right now of 104. But I do think that these people, they come from AccuWeather, and they are absolutely phenomenal. So they're forecasting high temperatures to go into the mid-hundreds Tuesday afternoon. The National Weather Service has totally jumped their temperatures big time. Yesterday they said low to mid-90s for St. Louis. Today highs around 100 degrees in the St. Louis area. How we have to move on. We have to pick up pace over here. We're going to focus. We could focus on Texas, where the high temperature yesterday was. We need a drum roll for this one, although we need a drum roll. The high temperature in Texas yesterday was the hottest temperature in the country. Actually, it was in California, Death Valley, California, 116 degrees. But Brownsville, Texas has highs well into the hundreds for today. That's where a lot of the really hot and humid air is. High temperatures going into the mid-90s today in New Orleans, Louisiana, upper 90s for Houston and Dallas. Remember, that comes with lots of humidity, especially in Houston and Galveston, Texas. We have temperatures in the 90s with high humidity in the eastern half of North Carolina and South Carolina, in the southeast portions of Georgia, and for the northern two-thirds of Florida. A lot of New Mexico, it's highs in the 90s, but it's a dry heat. But when you get to Arizona, who cares if it's a dry heat? High temperatures, low 100 in teens in Phoenix. If only we had those wind speeds, because when it's windy, it actually makes it feel hotter. Now, although it does have to be very windy in order for it to make it feel significantly hotter, but the thing that's important here is that if you base it upon humidity alone, the temperatures will actually feel 15 degrees cooler than what they actually are. So the high of 111 would actually feel like 96, especially in the Death Valley area. But if there's a wind, it will at the very least make the temperature feel where it is at 111 or even 112, even if there's a 10-mile-per-hour wind. So in a certain way, it is making temperatures feel about 15 degrees warmer, even a minor wind. But for the next notch up, you have to get to around 30 miles per hour. But so we do have sizzling temperatures in the desert Southwest. Sizzling temperatures, despite there's no humidity, but it's very hot over there. Temperatures feel just as hot there as they do in Texas, maybe even hotter there as they do in Texas, with heat indices in Texas are most likely about 110 degrees. How could it not? You have winds coming off the Gulf of Mexico. Now, we have, this stuff moves into the St. Louis area, and it intensifies. Do you hear that? Do you hear what that means? It intensifies. No, not that. It really intensifies. Yes, right, because we're big fans of heat. Maybe some people are not such big fans of heat on here, but it's going to intensify. An amplified ridge becomes more amplified as it moves into the Midwest next week. It's going to be hotter in St. Louis than all of this. Hotter in St. Louis than all of this. You look at the European computer model, what I found is that temperatures are going to be, we're looking at approximately heat indices in the low 100 and teens. We have temperatures of 99. You know, the European computer model has upped it big time. The AccuWeather has upped it, forecasting highs of 104 in the St. Louis area, and they lowered the dew points to 68. So I think that's how they pulled it off. Dew point of 74 degrees, according to the European computer model, with temperature of 99 degrees. So what AccuWeather has done, they lowered the dew point by 6 degrees, and they increased the temperature by 5 degrees. So that's doable. The dew point of 68, an afternoon high of 104. Either way, you end up at the same heat index. You end up at the same heat index of the low 100 and teens. Either way you do it, you end up at that heat index. So that's a question. I don't know how you're supposed to know that in the future. How are you supposed to figure that out? I can't figure that out yet. So I have to wait and work on that to figure out whether the high temperature is going to be 104 with dew points in the upper 60s like AccuWeather says, or whether the high will be 99 degrees with a dew point of 75. You know, here's the thing. Ordinarily, one would say a dew point of 75 is outrageous, especially this time of the year. So, of course, it makes sense, lower the dew points and increase the temperature. The question on that, however, is a few weeks ago, in May 11th, we had dew points in the 70s in St. Louis. We had that with temperatures in the mid-90s. We already experienced that this year, so we see this year, so it's very hard to figure that out. We say high temperatures will be somewhere from the mid-90s to the mid-hundreds with dew points somewhere from the upper 60s to the upper 70s. And I'm mentioning upper 70s only because Sunday morning the GFS model does something totally wild, points out the National Weather Service in St. Louis. They have dew points just plopping into the upper 70s out of nowhere, totally out of the blue. Now, even if that's not accurate, but this stuff is coming from somewhere. So, these high dew points in the mid-70s, if we get high dew points in the mid-70s, the temperatures are very unlikely going to hit 104. With that being said, it has happened before. But AccuWeather's approach, I believe, is to lower the dew points and to increase those temperatures. Either way, we're breaking a record. The previous record was 97 degrees. Sizzling heat for Chicago, Illinois, high temperatures mid-90s. That includes the lake. I know the National Weather Service has a little bit of a doubt in regards to how far north that front is going to come. Who are we to argue on them? But plenty people do. Temperatures mid-90s Tuesday afternoon. We're going to leave it at Tuesday. In St. Louis, you could continue 90s, 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 10 days, 14 days, 15 days. Maybe you'll have a day of 89 here and there because of thunderstorm, but it's hot and humid. The Chicago area, we better leave off on Tuesday because the GFS model and the European computer model do not agree on what's going to be happening with that front on Wednesday. With that being said, meteorologist Tom Skilling is forecasting highs going back into the low to mid-90s. Wednesday afternoon, highs from 90 to 95 degrees with heat indices approaching 100 degrees, but the winds, he's expecting them to shift northwest during the afternoon and the above normal weather patterns continuing at least through June 20th. That's when the real heat and humidity hits Tuesday and Wednesday, but it's already going to be very warm on Monday for the Chicago area. And, you could already see the heat on the weather map. You could see the heat already in St. Louis, perhaps on Sunday, and it's just hot, even South Bend, Indiana. Now, what's interesting over here is the East Coast is not getting it. They're not getting this heat, period. They're not getting it. You can search for it. It's not moving there. Day after day after day, it's not moving there. So unless there's a dramatic change in the forecast, the heat is not moving there. This is similar to what happened May 11th. It's a June version of what happened May 11th. If we were to word it like that, it's a June version of what happened May 11th. You have a high in St. Louis hit 94 with a dew point in the low to mid 70s. You give it, that's May 11th. We're going to be holding June 14th, more than 30 days ahead. Temperatures tend to go up about 8 degrees. AccuWeather's high of 104 certainly has legs to stand on, but it does sound a little hot to me. I would say no higher than 102, but AccuWeather just does such a good job. So, and that's for the airport, the surrounding area. They're really putting a high. You know, if we were under a drought, 104 could make sense. How do we get to 104 with high humidity? Even if the dew points are only in the upper 60s, that's still very humid. Somehow, we're going to have to see what's going to happen, and someone's going to have to give an explanation. You don't need an explanation for 90s with humidity in June, but for low hundreds, you need an 104. That 104 is not a normal temperature in St. Louis. They rarely hit 104 in St. Louis. 102 is a yearly thing that happens in July, not in June. 104 happens during years of drought, 1988. Years of drought. Things higher than that also happen in years of drought, but they're rare. So we'll have to wait and see what's going on over here. The rest of the forecast sounds reasonable. Mid-90s in Chicago, that's reasonable. It's the 104 in St. Louis, which is really, I don't know where it's coming from, and it'll be interesting to see whether it's accurate or not. That'll be interesting to see. I can only say it in their name right now. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody a wonderful day.